Welcome to the Life Chat Podcast, seeking the truth with Derek Powell, navigating you through every Wednesday night. New topics ignite, join the journey, let's take flight. Bringing insights that change our view. Derek's voice, clear and true. Tune in each week, discover new light. Life Chat Podcast, reach a new height.
Welcome, everybody to Life Chat Podcast. Thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you for taking the time out of your evening to hopefully get some information about the topic tonight. Tonight's topic is homelessness, vulnerable in our community. And the reason why I feel so passionate about this topic here is because I've lived it. There are different ways that people become homelessness. There's different stages of homelessness. And that's why I wanted to have our guest for tonight, our special guest, Miss Martha Gery, who is the founder and president of the Milford Advocacy for the Homeless. And before we really dive into the subject, to the topic, I just wanted to introduce Ms. Gery and try to gain a little more knowledge of who she is and what the advocacy is about. What is her motive? What is her goal for even starting the Milford Advocacy for the Homeless? So, Ms. Martha Gery, can you please give us a little bit more about who you are and what your reason? What is your goal for your baby?
Sure. Well, first I want to tell everybody how proud I am of Derek for where he is right now. We met a couple years ago, and I've seen him go through some transition, and I was lucky enough to walk beside him and just, support whatever it is that he needed to do. And now he's just blooming and giving back to the community. So I am so proud of you. That's a huge piece. So that's part of why I do what I do, because I like giving back to the community. But the other piece is that my brother, who is my best buddy, he basically went through homelessness for 15 years. And his quick story was that his wife left him after 25 years for his best friend, and it mentally broke him. So that was the first part. And we talked about different stages of homelessness. So first he had this mental capacity really being hindered. Then he had some back surgery. And when he had his back surgery, he was given opioids, and he immediately was addicted. And so then he had mental and the drug addiction. And that drove so many things that have happened to him. So like he lived with us, we tried to take him in and do whatever we could, because I told you, like him and I were very close. But especially because of the drug problem, we had to kick him out of the house. We'd have to keep, even though we loved him, we'd have to keep a distance. And as we walk through this and realize that it's really that person who needs to make the change, to make the decisions, to do the things. And all we can do is keep presenting opportunities for them and supporting them through all of it. Learning all of that and knowing that it was 15 years that my brother was going through this. And when we thought he was down and out, he was not down and out. And it was very cold in Pennsylvania the day that I called him and I said, please come in. And I was in tears and crying. And he decided to come in and stay overnight. And when he did, the next morning, the person that was with him had hypothermia and died. And so when I saw that happen, I just wanted to make sure if I could do anything about it, it would never happen again. And then when we moved to Delaware 7 years ago, we brought my brother with him, because we said to him, you have a narrative, and maybe many of you don't understand this, is that when you live, let's just say in Milford, we serve different areas, but just in Milford here, let's make it really home, talk about home, is if you live here, your family is here, you've been here forever, and you're trying to get out of a life of homelessness. It doesn't even matter if it's drug related or anything else. Everybody knows your story. Everybody judges everything that you've done or everything that you're going to do. So for him,
community.
Exactly. And that makes it even tougher, right? Because you're already under enough pressure. So for him, we brought him down here and we said, write your own narrative. We're not telling anybody you're homeless. You've been homeless. And he came down here. He built a brand new life. And he just recently died last year. All natural causes. But many times when you've experienced homelessness for a long period of time, your body is just racked from all those years of I'll call it abuse, because you're in not great situations. So that's part of why I do it. The other part is I just care. I just want to help people, and I live in this community, and I go into all of the surrounding communities that we serve, which is Rehoboth and Dover and Georgetown, and we're expanding that all the time. But being able to take whatever I've learned and help somebody else to be a success, and again, it's nothing I'm doing. All I'm doing is placing steps of opportunity in front of them and walking beside them. They're the ones who are making the difference. That's why I do it.
I'm glad that you do it because, as I said in the beginning of the episode, that I remember seeing you out in the community. I remember seeing you at Brandywine. I remember seeing you coming out to the park and come down to I think the Main Street area back there.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned about the addiction side. Of course, I was in my addiction at the time, and that was the main reason why I was homeless. And it really broke me down because, like you said, Milford is my hometown, and just by that being such a small community, it made it a little more difficult because I'm like, man, I just get beat myself up mentally because this is where my family is at, this is where my children are at, and I'm just out wandering around because I was chasing the substance, But I did live the lifestyle of considered a homeless for a period of time. And I also mentioned that about just being in my community and feeling that way because I wanted to also show this image up on the screen. I'm gonna put this image up on the screen and give people a little more another idea of what homelessness is or what homelessness looks like. Because a lot of times people think it's just people out in tents, or think it's people out in out in the woods and all that, and that's not always the case. So, can you give us a little more information about what these different stages of homelessness are and what they mean?
Yeah, I'm going to start off with what HUD, because this is just the general statement. Derek and I were talking about this. HUD says that there's different types of homelessness. They categorize them as transitional, meaning they're temporary in that case. There's hidden, those people that get unnoticed or unreported. They may be couch surfers, living in their cars, staying with friends. And then there's rough sleeping, which is those are the ones you probably see because they're sleeping in public places. Statutory homeless due to other things like eviction or fleeing domestic violence. And then there's other ones, unaccompanied youth, substance abuse, different things like that. But I think the most significant thing that I can share with you based on what Derek has here is literal homelessness. That's where we start, where people's minds immediately go. Those are the people who, wherever they sleep at night, it's not meant for them to sleep there. It might be a park, an abandoned building, things like that. They even might be in a jail or a hospital, and then an imminent risk of homelessness. And that's where they're so close to losing their housing within like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then back to those federal statutes, and then the fleeing domestic violence. Now, having said that, I want to come back to Derek's. Oh, Derek, can you put that back up for me?
Yeah.
Because we like to talk about, like, this is what everybody else says that it is. This is really what happens, is you can categorize things all you want, but people living in improvised dwellings, tents, sleeping bags. So a lot of times there's a presumption that these are all drug addicts. And actually, statistics will tell you that it's between 15 and 20% of people that are drug addicts out of all the people that are homeless. If you went around town, any town that you go to, you might see somebody in a tent, but you might see them in a corner trying to stay out of the weather. You might see them sleeping on a bench. It could be almost anywhere. And those are the people who are the most visible, right? We have persons supported in accommodation. So in the winter, we have Code Purple. That's an example of a place where somebody can stay from December 1st through March 15th. And their role is simply to provide a place where somebody can stay safe overnight. And so that's an example of that. It could also be a shelter. You know, there's shelters, especially up in Dover. We don't have one in Milford, but there are shelters there, and so that's another place where you can get supported. Um, and then people staying temporary in other households. This is one of the biggest ones in Milford. You know, when we do counts of people who are homeless, a lot of times these are the people that don't get counted because they're not sleeping in their own bed. They're not sleeping in a place where it's typically where you would call home. It's somebody else's home. It's a friend. They're uncomfortable. They're not getting good sleep. They could be kicked out any second. So that's that next one. And then people living in boarding houses. You know, if you look at group homes, you know, we have group homes, and they're some of the better boarding houses. When my brother was up in Pennsylvania, there was a boarding house, and again, living in a small town, every time he would give his address, they'd be like, "Oh, we don't want to hire you because you live at that boarding house, and you're not reliable, you're not whatever it might be," that their preconceived notions are. But there are transitional houses, which are the next thing, temporary lodges. You know, you go from wherever you are on the street and you get temporary housing. It might be someone gave you a voucher for a hotel room. It could be that somebody got you in a transition house. It's considered temporary. Even if it's a year or more, it's temporary. It's not your place to be. And then persons living in severe crowded dwellings, and this is the big one also in Milford, is that people are experiencing, whether it's, you know, being laid off or a medical condition. Those are some of the big ones. Mental duress. Those are things where, let's just say, I'll give you an example of what I hear often is a grandmother has 2 or 3 generations living with her.
Yep.
She's single, she's 75 or 80, and she is got her whole family living with her. That's a great example of this overcrowded. People are on top of each other. It's stressful. But I think the big thing about all this is understanding that what you think is homelessness is not, that's only this small piece of it. There's all of these other things.
And back to what we were talking about earlier, and where people have the misconception of what homelessness is.
Mhm.
A lot of times, I mentioned it earlier, a lot of times I used to think that if I was living with my sister, staying with my sister or another family member, that I was stable, and that's actually considered homeless. If it's not your actual physical address and your place of residence, you are considered homeless by society's views, by society's standards. And so, with that being said, what is the like? I know that every year there's a census, there's a count that you said that you do, that you're a part of, and
Yeah.
how is that handled? How is that done? How is the census handled?
Yeah. So the pig count is done. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
On top of that, for my my understanding, what is for our small town, our small community of Milford and the surrounding areas? Do you have a roundabout idea of how many homeless are right now?
Yeah, so what we do, well, let me back up. So the pig count is something that's done in all of Delaware, and there's many organizations that participate in that. Anybody who, whether it's Code Purple, Brandywine, Shepherd's Office, some of the transitional houses, I'm trying to think what the one's called. I can't remember what it's called, but you get my point. There's these places that will report in on who is on that night considered to be homeless. Now, one of the things you did talk about is when you're sleeping, surf couching, or those people are being missed because they're counting people who are out on the, sleeping outside. And when that pit count happens, one of the things that happens is because so many people are embarrassed, they don't want to talk to anybody, they flee so they don't get counted. And so the pit counts as close as we can get based on the circumstance. And so we participate in that, make sure that people have our part of the count, as well as in all these other organizations. And one of the things we do is we get the names and the date of birth of people so that we don't overlap those numbers. So if, let's just say, if Shepherd's office is helping John Doe with this birth date, when they get the list from us, they'll see if John Doe with that birth date is happening, and so they won't count them twice, which I think is fantastic. The other thing you asked about is how many people there are at any given point. So there's two things that happen when you're counting people. Is one, people who go from being homeless, and it's not being homeless, it's experiencing homelessness, right? So when they're experiencing that homelessness, a lot of times they will go in and out of it. So one of the things, like when you look at it, you have different kinds of ways of looking at it. And if you think about that, they are somebody who is couch surfing, or they're chronic. So like you have chronic homelessness. Those are the people that they have homelessness, and they might have been there for extended period of time, but then they might have gone in. Like we have people that are literally homeless during the summer because their families will pull them in during the winter to keep them warm, and then during the summer. So our numbers are always going back and forth. So we do keep numbers that are separate, and we're going to be coming out with our impact report. We just have been so busy, and we'll share those numbers with you. But you'll see that we've served around 300 people last year. Now, not all of those are experiencing homelessness, but many of them are in the categories that are not real clear, cut and dry. I'm living in a house with a whole bunch of my family. So when you're talking about that, we tell people from what we see at any given point in time, there's at least 100 people that are considering themselves without a home at the time, or homeless, expecting to be categorized as experiencing homelessness. So it's a very tough thing, and I'm not trying to skirt the issue because I would be happy to give you an exact number, but people constantly go, like we help somebody, let's say they go into, we help them to get connected with someplace that'll give them housing, and they qualify and they get into that housing. Well, many of them have been on the street for so long that getting into a house is really not the answer because they don't know how to live in a house. They don't know how to pay bills. And I'm not saying they're stupid, because it's not that. It's just they are so far out of society at that point. They probably learned all of those things when they were younger, but they haven't had to do it in quite some time. We have some individuals that we've been serving now for 7 years, and they're not ready for housing. They would like housing, but they're not ready for it because they don't have that transition back into society. And so they have a housing for 2 or 3 months, and either they don't pay their bills, even though they get money, or they can't budget their bills correctly, or they, like my brother, one of the things he did, he would talk very loudly and get offended very quickly because I didn't believe it, but I actually saw it. He says, "Come with me." He'd walk into a I don't want to say a name, like a retail store, and somebody would start following him around the store. And he's like, people just disrespect me because I either look like I'm experiencing homelessness, or they have preconceived notions about who I am because maybe what they know about me. And so all of those things play an influence. But one thing, Derek, in our numbers, what we are seeing is when I first started doing this 6-7 years ago, our numbers were younger, and they were more like the tent city type of people living chronic type of homelessness. Now what we're seeing every year, it's more and more, are senior citizens. I'm talking about 50 and over, who are experiencing homeless now. And so that's a totally different category, because you have people who are less equipped to be out on the street or sleeping with other people at other people's houses, I should say.
Because on top of that, because of the physical issue.
I was just going to say, and then they typically have physical, and then that causes mental. They're in and out of the hospital. There's two things that we hear a lot. One is we hear that somebody gets sick, and especially if they're a couple. One will get sick, and then the other gets sick, and they're in the hospital for 2 weeks. When they come out, they don't have a place. Somebody got rid of all their stuff, and they're kicked out, because we do have some landlords that are not doing things legally. And so sometimes that's all that someone on a limited income can do. Many of these people are $750 or $950. How do you live on that? You can't even pay for your place to live like that. So we see more and more of that being our biggest challenge.
Well, on top of everything that you just mentioned, and you hit on it just a little bit just a minute ago, but on top of this substance abuse that we deal, I'm going to say we deal with in that situation, there's also the mental health side that's not just brought on by the adversity of being homeless, but a lot of people go in to homelessness with mental health issues, and probably because of the mental health issues. So how are these? Is there any type of information that you would have to offer that you know of that people that might be dealing with that, or people that have relatives or family or friends, how would they seek help for that? I mean, what type of information do you have?
So we have people who were perfectly fine before they experienced homelessness, and now they're having mental issues. And because when we are insecure about ourselves, we become isolated, right? And so one of the biggest things we try to tell people is, don't isolate. Go and be social. So especially with the senior citizens, what we're doing, last year we started it, this year we're really engaged in it. In fact, we just went in today and signed another person up. Anyone who's 50 or older, we encourage them to go to the senior center. And we talked with the senior center, we're partnering with them, but so that they can go in and be socialized and feel like they matter and they count. And so that mental thing that might be starting gets a real kibosh because they are being socialized. So that's the one thing. No matter how you can socialize, you can go places like the library and Brandywine and the senior center. They're all places where you can go and be around people and try to do that. The second is, if you are experiencing duress, like there were times when my brother was in real duress mentally, because it lays on you. I've always told him I'm not a drinker, but I think I would drink if I was being homeless. I'd probably learn how to drink like that, because it's a hard life. It's a very hard life. Yeah. And so every day, and Derek, you can speak to this more than I can. I can only tell you what people are telling me, and what I've experienced with my brother is every day you're just trying to live. And so, it's a lot of duress. So if you are somebody who's experiencing that and you need some help, and even if it's just short term, go see one of the behavioral units. So you have Dover and you have Georgetown. So you have Sun and you have Dover. You also have places like Banyan and many others. There's tons of them. I'm just giving you a couple names so that it's easier for you to find them. But those are places where you can go in, especially just, a couple days, get an evaluation, see if you can get some medicine to help your stress, because sometimes it's as easy as just getting a small prescription to help you deal with that. And that's one thing. Another thing is that when you're going through all this, decision making is tough. So if you can find somebody who will walk beside you and help you with decision making, because you can get into a spiral. I made a bad decision, and another one, I make all bad decisions, and you don't. You're just in a spiral at the moment. So having someone that you can honestly talk to and just say, hey, here we are. So there are apps that you can talk to somebody 24 hours a day. Can't remember what it's called right at the moment. Sometimes getting older is, a little challenging. But there is an app. someone puts it in the chat, I will later get what it is. If any of our team is watching, if you can remember what that's called, it's a great one because it's both peer and professionals who are in it, and you can talk to someone 24 hours a day about anything. So that's another kind of thing that's out there for people just to support each other. On our website, we try to be a hub of information. We don't know it all. We don't have everything, but on our website, there is an information piece where you can see some of the resources that are out there. We also create a document. We're just trying to figure out how to put it out there. It's called Together We Serve. And so all the resources we're finding, we're putting this all in the document with connections and phone numbers and flyers and everything else we can. So we're trying to provide you with anything that we've learned over the last couple of years. And on Saturday, we have what we call a Helping Hands event. It's at the library on the downstairs. And if you're someone who's experiencing homelessness, or you're part of our vulnerable community, meaning you're this close to homelessness, come to that event, because what you're going to see at the event is a couple things. One, you can get a haircut. How much better do you feel when you get a haircut? Like, you can feel like, but you can feel so much better, right? Get your beard done, there's all kinds of things. We have a massage therapist. You get a massage. How often are people who are vulnerable or experiencing homelessness, they're isolating, right? So they're not getting physical touch. So getting some physical touch. We do a meal. All of our clothing is free. We have tons of clothing. And then we have vendors, but they're not the kind of vendors you think. They're not selling anything. They're giving everything for free. And so
what date is this?
It's this Saturday from 10 to 12 at the Milford Library.
Okay.
And we do have a couple bikes. We're going to have some more bikes. We'll be putting out an announcement about bikes, and we're really excited about it. We're just not ready to totally get it out there yet, but we do have some bikes. But anyways, the event is made so that these vendors are people like the food bank and tell you how to get connected, how you can get different food. Did you know that you can get food through Amazon? And Amazon delivers anywhere, right? You don't even have to have a house. You just have to show up at that place in that time. So there's all kinds of things. The mental health places. We even had a funeral home come in because there's death, right? Some of that's what causes us to have our problems. So please come out if you think that would help you. We're here. If you just want someone to talk to, we're going to be there. I'll be there. Seek me out. Be happy to talk with you and get you connected with any resources that we have, because that's really what it's all about, helping each other.
All right, and with thank you for getting other information about the event coming up on the 10th. On Saturday. Also, I wanted to ask you this question about Milford Advocacy for the Homeless. You mentioned a couple of things that you're involved with, but I also know that you've been distributing, getting these bikes together for people. I know you do the clothing and food handout. Also, what type of things, what type of services do you actually offer on top of that? Can you give us some type of information on what you actually offer on top of that?
Yeah, if you go to our website and you go to programs, that's what I'm going to be talking about now. So the different programs, so you'll see where if you're somebody who's struggling with laundry, we have a laundry program. So if you are someone who is vulnerable, meaning you're that close to experiencing homelessness, we work with you. We don't have a large budget for it, but we do have a budget for laundry, and we help you to get some laundry done. I talked about the senior center. We get memberships for people that are doing in the senior center. We do recovery programs, food recovery programs. So we work with local organizations, restaurants, and like we just did with Chipotle. Chipotle gave us, 250, about 500 or 600 sandwiches and stuff every day while they were doing their training, because we're hooked up with them for recovery, and we put them out to the community. And so we just, if you want to be on that list, if you're a vulnerable family or an individual, just send us your information, and we'll put you on the list when we do have extra meals. We also have meals at night. So we're trying to make sure we have dinners. Well, we do have dinners, but we're trying to get them to be sit-down dinners. So some of the churches have opened up their doors to us, and we know during this time there's even more people experiencing homelessness due to layoffs and all kinds of other things that are happening. And so we encourage them to come out and sit down and have a meal. It's at 5:30 every night. And then we have our clothing. So we
Where would
have
that?
two kinds. Sorry, go ahead.
Where would the
Clothing.
meals? Where would that be
Oh, the
at?
meals. So there are different places every night. So I'll give you an example. Friday night is at Mount Enon. That and you can just go to Mount Enon Church and we'll serve you. We serve until we're out of food. So, but that's just an example. Anybody who wants to know more about that, we are on the GroupMe app and we have where we are every night. And we started today putting it on our not on our website, on our Facebook page, where the sit down dinners are. And they're going to be doing that for the next 3 weeks, just so that we get it out there even more.
Okay.
So that's another one. If you are in need of clothing, you can go ahead. We have requests, and we have them at all these different locations. So we have it like at Brandywine, we'll have it at dinners, we have in the transition houses, and you can put in a request because what you need may not be what someone else needs. So I'm not going to presume what you need, because if you are experiencing homelessness, you only have so much room to be able to put things, and if you're vulnerable and you're living with 20 other people, there's only so much room that you have. So especially these times when the weather is changing, it's important to get the right kind of clothing for you. And so you can go right on our website, and if you can't get anyplace else, and there's a form there. Unfortunately, right now I haven't been able to automate it. I will, but right now you just have to print it, and which you can do at the library, and go ahead and fill it out, and you can just send a picture to us and text it to us. So that's another thing we do for people who are working and moving, what we call moving forward, because we try not to enable, right? We have a small little, I'll call it a clothing shop, where by appointment you can come and you can shop the things that you need. If you're having we partner with other people in the community, like House of David, which is Jesus Love Temple Ministry. When somebody says that they want to go for a job interview, we send them there because they keep all of the clothing that's for job interviews. So we try to partner with different people. We also partner with them 5 times a year, and we do community meals. So Easter's coming up, so I want to invite anybody who's vulnerable in the community. We fed 225, I think it was, meals the last time. And so all of those events we put up on our Facebook page, and we're going to be putting them on our website. And they're free. They don't cost you anything. You just show up. You can have to go if you really don't want to be social. We hope that people are social just because we know it's better for you mentally. But not everybody's at that place. So you can have it to go, or you can be there. And we try to have, whether it's music and small gifts for Easter, we're going to have Easter baskets, because, those are the things that you miss when you don't have family and you don't have a home. It's all those traditions that everybody else gets to do.
Also, with that makes people feel like as being a part of, that people to see and feel that people actually do care. And,
Yep.
a lot of times we tend to push ourselves away or push everybody else away because of our situation. And we do want to be, we feel like we think we want to be alone, and we don't want people to be in our little bubble. But at that time, that's probably when we need people the most. I know that's how I get, because it makes me, I don't want, the embarrassment is there. The self-pity is there. And then and then on top of that, you're just so comfortable with being in that type of environment because of your situation.
Yeah.
And that plays a lot on your mental also. And okay, so I did have one a couple more questions actually before we wrap
Go
it
ahead.
up. About these bikes, and I keep asking about these bikes because I saw the post
All
of these.
right.
I think it
I'll
was
give you.
300 and some bikes.
We do. So here's the thing, and you're going to see us announcing this, so you can be one of the first, because I love you. I'll just go ahead and give you some insight. So my son used to, up until a couple months ago, he started Second Wind Bicycles, and we had always gotten bicycles from him. And we, it's usually about 100, 125 every year that we got from him. And their organization gave it to us for free. So he knew what his uncle went through, my brother, and so vehicle was always a thing that they needed. So bike is easy because you don't have to have a license. You don't, there's lots of things you don't have to have, so it makes it very easy. So back at the COVID, we couldn't find bikes down here. So he went looking up in Pennsylvania, and so he created a 501c3. Um, and so he basically, about 5 weeks ago, gave us 315 bikes, and they're anything from a child on up. And so we are going to be building a fix-it shop. So we're going to be you're going to see some things from us that, one, if you have a bike to donate, get it to us. If you're an organization, whether it's like a police force or a school, someplace where seasonally people have bikes there, we'll come pick them up, and then we'll fix them and take them back out into the community. We put stickers on them, so occasionally we haven't seen very many of them around town, like just sitting there, but if we do, we look and it has our sticker, we pick it up, we fix it, and we send it back out into the community, because we don't want bikes like sitting around. We want them to be used. So right now, we are trying to get people to get them to fix them. So right now we have, I think it's maybe 80 or 100 kids bikes, meaning anything from the smallest bike that you can get up to a teenager. And we are fixing those. So if you can help us, on Saturday at 3 o'clock, we're going to leave from God's Way. We have a bus, and we're going to be taking that bus up to where the bikes are right now. We got a donation from the Midway Storage, and they're holding them for us. We're going to go there and fix them. And even if you don't know what to do, you can fix a child's bike, because it just needs grips. It needs a little, make sure that the chain is on, gets a little grease, and make sure the tires and the inner tubes are fine. So we can all fix it, so we can learn. We're going to be up there for 3 hours, and then we're going to pile the bus up with whatever we can get fixed, and then we're going to give them out to the community. So if you are someone in the community who wants a child's bike in the category that I told you, we're going to have other categories. We're just going to do it in bunches. And if that's somebody that you know or a family you know, just have them email us, because we'll put them on the list. The criteria is basically you need to be a vulnerable person in the community, meaning you're on a fixed income, and typically it's somebody that's under $1,000 of income a month. Or you could be, you're moving forward and you're a transition home and you need a way to get to your job, things like that. Or you're just an individual who has been walking to your job every single day, and we'd like to be able to get you transportation. So, and then we fix them. So any bike that goes out with our sticker on it, if you need it to be fixed, we'll be fixing it. It will take us a little bit of time, probably till the end of the year, to get that all set up down here. But yeah, I'm excited because it's just another way that we can serve the community. 2 years ago, we asked the city council to look into fix-it stations, and we're going to go back to them and ask them again, can you put some fix-it stations, and can you put some bike racks in town, including business owners and stuff, so that we can promote people getting around town, especially there's traffic, right? Bike's a great way to get around.
Especially when the beach traffic starts coming
Exactly.
through. I want an electric bike with the horn and the light on. That's what I want. So, no.
I'm sorry, we don't do electric bikes right now. But if we get one donated, we've had people donate stuff, and we just try to get it to the best kind of situation. So in other words, if somebody is really on the outskirts of town, that might help them more than somebody else. But we're not really into fixing electric bikes right now, but I'm sure we will transition as they become more available.
It was just a joke, but I don't know, somebody might actually have that question. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
As you see on the screen, I have Ms. Gery's Milford Advocacy for the Homeless information up on the screen. Telephone number is 302-217-3106. And the email address would be MAH, these are all lowercase, MAH at Milford Advocacy for the homeless.org. So if you have any questions, any information that you're looking for, contact agency, her organization with that information and get what you need.
Two
Is
things,
there anything
Derek.
else?
I
Yeah.
just want to mention two things. One is that if you're interested in volunteering or learning more about us, every month we have what we call a Night of Knowledge, and it's on Facebook. You don't have to go there ahead of time. You can just go there and click on the link and you can join, where we answer questions and give you information about our organization. So if you have additional questions, you can always feel like you can get them answered. And if you'd like to volunteer, come to that meeting and we'll talk to you about what volunteer opportunities, because there's always opportunities to serve.
Thank you for adding that too. Thank you for including that information. Okay, so is there anything else that you have other than that?
No, unless there's
Okay.
something that we didn't cover that you wanted to cover.
No. I just thank you for being on. I thank you for upholding your end of the bargain. You said you were going to be on, and you were on, and you offered a lot of information. So I'm just hoping that somebody got something out of it they can use and help us
Absolutely.
continue to move forward. Thank you, Ms. Gery, for being on for tonight. Thank you, everybody that watched live. Thank you for the individuals that will watch later on tonight or when they can. Just remember that we're all in the same. We're all here to help each other. So let's just keep moving forward and do what we have to do. Thank you, everybody, for watching Live Chat Podcast. Thank you for taking time out to gain some information, gain some knowledge with Milford Advocacy for the Homeless and Ms. Martha Gery. Thank you. Good night. Be safe.
Thank you, Derek.
Be blessed.
Thank you, community.
Welcome to the Life Chat Podcast, seeking the truth with Derek Powell, navigating you through. Every Wednesday night, new topics ignite. Join the journey, let's take flight. Bringing insights that change our view. Derek's voice, clear and true. Tune in each week, discover new light. Life Chat Podcast, reach a new height.